So we've talked about the notion of bringing the PMI data content from upstream down through the manufacturing process and into metrology. But we'd also like to look at is, can we take the QIF result data that is generated by the MeasureLink execution software and drive that data content back up for feedback. And I don't know why that thing is starting like that. Page up, page down.
Just the up arrow.
It's very slow. I don't know why it's doing this. Here we go. Let's try it again. Okay. So and again, my apologies for the washed out slide projector. So we've looked at the upstream process, and now we're talking about driving feedback upstream through QIF and mapping it back into AP 242. What kinds of data might we be able to provide as feedback? There, of course, is cloud of points data that could be non-contact cloud of points information, or as Brian demonstrated today, touch probe points. That could be wrapped with a tessellated representation, and that's relatively easy to do. We might also want to do boundary volumes and be able to do difference volumes from that. And then what we have done, or at least started to do, is look at individual characteristics and be able to map the as measured characteristic data from the MeasureLink software back upstream into STEP. Here are the measurement touch points. You see an example of this in the rounded corner of that pocket on the stage model. And here is the extraction of that data, the QIF results, into an intermediate form. You see the UUIDs, the individual values for the particular piece of as measured PMI, and then its status, pass or fail. And then in the box in the low center, you see the mapping of that data into a STEP construct and attachment of that data back onto the original STEP 242 file that was brought from upstream. We're still working on this. This is a general concept, experimental concept. We believe that there are some more interesting things that we can do. Here's an example of how it might look. You see in the upper left-hand corner the nominal PMI data content coming downstream, and then in the low center you see the as-measured results. The as-measured results could be a pass, a checkbox on a piece of PMI that was within the bounds of the nominal, or the one that was flagged as being a failed operation. Also, you note the notion of being able to take the point cloud information, the touch point information, develop a tessellated representation for that particular area, and then be able to superimpose that on the design and be able to provide feedback in a visual way for users. We also believe that we can take the statistical process control results that are also coming out of the MeasureLink software for runs of parts and be able to provide that as attachment content to the AP242 and make that visible in upstream applications. I won't go into the details of this, but this is sort of the big vision picture. The notion of driving the data downstream from design into manufacture and into metrology, and then grabbing the results, either FAI, first article inspection results, or statistical process control results, and driving that QIF information back upstream into STEP 242 for feedback, either to manufacturing or to design. What are the next steps? There are some gaps we've identified in the course of the NIST projects and the DMDII project. We have some gaps in PMI provide support for manufacturing metrology, surface finish, welds, materials. We have done some experimentation on inclusion of precision information, so that is in the prototype that we've already done. There is a requirement for, unless otherwise specified, in other words, global tolerance information content. There is a move afoot to include that as a test case in one of the next CACS test rounds. But we do need recommended practices across the board here. Then as far as the UUIDs for traceability, we have demonstrated the notion of insertion and extraction of those UUIDs and using those as a mechanism to link the data coming downstream and the data coming back upstream. We believe we can build out alternate shapes. There's a new test case for alternate shape in the next CACS round that could be used to support this notion of the as-measured tessellation as an alternate shape for looking at and comparing the as-designed and the as-measured content. As a wrap-up, I think we've demonstrated the notion of process improvement, reduction in CAM and CMM programming time, conservatively 70% at the point we are now, as much as 90% when we get all the bells and whistles in it. We've demonstrated the ability to pass stage models from the manufacturing process downstream to metrology planning via a standards-based exchange. We've shown the ability to do simulation to validate the manufacturing and metrology processes before actual execution. We've been able to generate actionable results, demonstrated that back up to the stakeholders in the manufacturing community, and we expect the ability to provide the same actionable results to upstream stakeholders in the design community. And bottom line, that standards-based MBE really frees the product data from the source CAD system for manufacturing purposes, for metrology purposes, and for long-term archive purposes. I'll ask if, at this point, if there are any questions. Yes, Howard.
Hi, yeah, very good to link the unique identifiers right through the process so you can automatically generate the stuff back. You've used step 21 edition 3. Is there any thought as to how you might do that in an XML representation by linking it to the model rather than the representation form?
I have been talking to Tom Thurman, and they're doing some work on IDs inside the context of the data section, and that I think will map into an XML, step XML. I think there's more work to be done to flesh that out, but yes, it should be possible.
Yeah, because then that will transfer to all the representation forms. Professor Ham here, of course,
any other questions, comments? All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Yes.
Yes, maybe a question here for the process. The process is integrated, so it means that probably you set up all the tools and machine at a given place in one plant. What if you want to extend it to some partners in the supply chain?
Yeah, I think that's a key rationale for using a standards-based approach. That as vendors for the planning systems and machine systems, and for that matter the CAD systems, develop 242 and make 242 available, that the normal problems that you see in supply chain situations where there are a mix of systems from different vendors, they will be reduced, those issues will be reduced by using the standards-based approach.
And any test bed for qualifying the tools of the vendors and application of the
Yeah,
partners?
We have been doing work for the PDES ProStep CACs on validating step data and particularly PMI data content in 242 format for some time now. I think this is probably the third or fourth round that we've been doing validation for STEP. There are similar activities in the JT Open, their interoperability forum, and also the 3D PDF interoperability forum. So yes, there are mechanisms to validate the transformation of the data from format to format, so that you prevent lossiness in the exchange. Yes, sir.
Yes, you have non-contact measurement system.
Yes.
Have you done some validation doing that?
Yeah, it's interesting. There is a new capability in STEP for tessellated representation information content. And although we feel that this is probably pretty straightforward to support the notion of alternate representation and comparison of the original as designed model and the as measured model for touch probes, I think it still remains to be seen whether or not the large volumes of data that would be generated by a non-contact type measurement process, how well that would be handled by this approach. I think it's certainly possible. I think some of the details are still to be worked out. Any other questions?
Can you create a video of this?
What's that?
Can you create a video? Because
Oh, of this?
Yes.
Well, I think it's already in work.
very good. Right kind of.
We actually are talking about redoing these demonstrations offline and preparing some video content, webinar, if you will, on what we've been doing. And as soon as it becomes available, we'll certainly broadcast that to the ISO community. But thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.